Okay, folks, in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia. And today we are having a special edition of our show this morning. In this edition, we are having a topic for you, which is reaction to the December 30th reschedule or cancel protest. As you are all aware, today is the date that has been set for the much talked about December 30th protest. That protest, as we speak, is being rescheduled. All other people are saying it's been canceled. That is the topic that we have for you. This is a special edition of our program, The Hour of Politics. And we have in the house, Mr. Kane, who will also be here with us to provide some analysis of our discussion this morning. Mr. Cannon, I want to take the time to welcome you to Focus on Liberia. Welcome to our program, The Hour of Politics.
Good morning, and I'm very happy to be on your show this morning to discuss about the current happening in Liberia regarding the December 30th planned protest, which has been postponed or canceled, as you say. Yeah. It's great to be here once again on Focus on Liberia.
Thank you. That is Mr. Conan there, the man who is with us here to provide analysis on our topic. And so, folks in cyberspace, please share the show with your contact as we go into our discussion. And so, folks, here we go. Today should have been the much talked about December 30th protest. The COP had a news conference this morning in which they informed the Liberian people that the international community, to be specific, the US Embassy, the European Union, the United Nations, and ECOWAS reached out to them asking that the protest be rescheduled. The reason, according to the COP, the international community informed them that they had conversation with the Liberian government, and the Liberian government indicated to them clearly that as we speak, they do not have all the resources they need to provide security for the expected number of persons to gather or that should have gathered for the protest. And so the government asked the international community to intervene. And the international community, for fear that when there is no security possibility as things might get out of hand, decided to call on the Council of Patriots so that the protest can be rescheduled. And so according to the Council of Patriots, they said, whoa, if you are telling us to call our people to reschedule or cancel the protest, that is not something we can do. But if you think that this is what is necessary to do, you have to be the one to call on the Liberian people and inform them, giving reason why the protest should not go on as planned. And so upon the COP indicating that to the international community, including the United States Embassy near Monrovia, the European Union, ECOWAS, and the United Nations, they were able to issue a statement in which the only main information in that statement is that the protest has been scheduled. There were other conversations that went on. The United Nations advised that the protest should resume on the 5th of January, which having to be Sunday, but the COP said no. Sunday is a special day in Liberia where many people go to church to worship, and so they will prefer Monday. So as we speak, the protest is being scheduled for Monday, January the 6th. That is the information. So the protest that we all been hearing about has been rescheduled, or you may argue has been canceled. We have our analyst here in studio. Mr. Conan, you just heard from me what is obtaining now in the homeland. The protest is canceled. Your first reaction to this news?
Well, I went to bed last night around 2 a.m. and I posted on Facebook that at this moment it should be 7 o'clock in Liberia, and I'm going to bed People are going to be protesting. They have the right to do so. And I urge that the security forces demonstrate extreme care to make sure no harm is done to any of the protesters. And I said, I hope to wake up to good news this morning. That's what I posted last night on my social media page. Then when I woke up this morning, I just realized that the protest is being, like you said, either canceled or postponed to another date. All right. The most important thing we have to understand is that though the citizens have the right to protest, but the question here is for some of us, is the protest necessary right now? I have been one of those that said all along, that protest is not the best way forward. What we need in Liberia is constructive engagement between the government and the opposition, so that the people's business should be done, something that the government should do that will benefit the citizen. Government is elected to provide services, and the government should worry about how to provide those services that will make citizens to feel comfortable in their own country. Unfortunately, we have a situation where there's a lot of challenges the government is facing. Then at the same time, you have citizens who are not satisfied with the condition and they want to get on the street to demonstrate. By the end of the day, when you demonstrate, what do you want? You expect a result, or what else do you want? Okay, as we heard all along, the protest organizers and their supporters were saying December 30th protest is mainly intended for the president to step down. Some of us vehemently oppose that methodology, or that the idea that the president should step down because people are not satisfied. Because we feel like if the president steps down, that is going to be something undemocratic in our system, and it's going to disturb the whole democratic process.
Mr. Conan. Mr. Conan.
Yes.
Yeah, I just heard you saying that if the president steps down, it will be undemocratic. The protesters, I mean, I'm not saying that I agree with them. I play a neutral role here. They said that when they say that the government should step down, the organizer of the protest are saying that it is their individual members' right, just as it is the right of any citizen to ask a government or their government to say, hey, step down or calm down. They said saying calm down, step down is the same as saying resign. And it is the right, and that does not constitute any violation of our constitution. What do you say to that?
Well, as I also said, earlier, I've been doing a lot of commentary on this whole protest activities. At some point, I said, if it is a matter of free speech, citizens have the right to say anything they want to say. But if you insist on that the president must step down, like some people were saying, that we're not going to leave the street until the president steps down, then of course, that is inviting chaos in the country.
But why if in their request or demand for the president to step aside or step down or resign, they remain peaceful and orderly as stipulated in the Constitution? How does that in any way constitute a violation of our laws?
No, it's not. But as long as it is peaceful. But when you tell a president to step down, and if he has to step down, it means that you have to go extra miles beyond just free speech. Free speech alone is not going to make any president to step down. There got to be something extraordinary for a president to step down. That's what we have been saying. The whole campaign about step down, it may be a right thing as a matter of free speech, But if you really, really want to actualize on that threat, then of course, you'll be inviting chaos in the country. Because we've seen the situation before. We were very young when April 14 took place in 1979. Some of us didn't even know what was politics back then, with very little. Now we've seen how some of those situations happened in the early 90s with all the agitation around and the war. And we feel like democracy is on course in Liberia at this time. And it is unfortunate that the lawmakers who supposed to be working
Mr.
along
Conan,
with
before we go to the lawmakers, let's stick to the protesters, the organizers, the government role, and then we'll come to the role of the international community, a role for which today people are now in the street protesting as the cave should have been. So sticking to the protest itself, you were talking earlier about 1979. 1979 is more than 30 years or maybe 40 years behind. Yeah, more than 40 years behind now, maybe. Let's just leave that. Let's talk about the June 7 protest. Most recent protest was organized, and because the security forces did not make any attempt, maybe they were not provoked, they conducted themselves as security forces should do whenever people are exercising their democratic rights to a peaceful assembly. It went peaceful. Bring back our money campaign. It went peaceful. There were some group of Liberians calling themselves concerned Liberians, the group that protested, talking about they don't want a war. They don't want war in Liberia. And then Rufo Nouvelle COP, Jefferson Koji have had what I will consider as protests, and all of these things have been peaceful. So let's not just forget about 1979. It's far behind. We are talking about the Liberia of today. There have been numerous protests that have been peaceful. Even the arrival of Costa the first time, the second time, I will argue those two have been peaceful. So let's forget about 1979. So the point I'm making here is that if the security forces conduct themselves, respect the rights of the people, play their role as they're supposed to do, the protest would be peaceful. And the organizer have a history of conducting peaceful protests. So where is this noise coming from about protests will bring about war? It happened before. It has never happened in Liberia in the past maybe 30 years. CDC protested, we never went to war. So where is this coming from?
Well, it's just that people have different political viewpoints. Everybody can say we want to do this and have any kind of analysis to back up their point. There's some of us who say protest is not a solution. If we have issue, we need constructive engagement between opposition and the government. But of course, nobody going to say people don't have the right to protest. The Constitution clearly gives everyone the right to demonstrate for any reason. By the end of the day, what is the protest bringing to the society? You know,
before we go to what the protest bring, before we go to what the protest brings, all right, let's look at, you talk about the word constructive engagement. What will be or constitute a constructive engagement in your opinion?
What will constitute constructive engagement, in my opinion, would be like the legislators should do the job they were elected to do. What is happening right now, it is as if to say the various opposition parties have members in the Senate and the House. Okay, the work they're supposed to be doing in the House, passing laws that will benefit Liberian people economically, it's like their role is being taken over now by the protest movement. Okay, if you see someone like Yako Koluba, who is a member of the House, but he's not known for putting up any bills that economically or politically help the Liberian people, but instead of working in the House, he's a part of the protest movement. I have a serious problem with that.
Mr. Conrad, I want us to stick to the protest. Let's leave the legislator alone. Maybe we can bring them in
no,
later.
But the only reason I'm bringing the legislators in is because I believe that their function is being taken over now by the protest movement. The protest movement is like, the government is not doing X, Y, Z. We're going to get on the street to force the government to do X, Y, Z. That's what the protest is about, right?
You have a point there, but again, I want us to stick to the protest, the organizer, the government role, and the role of the international community. Stay sticking to the role of the protester, the organizers. My question to you is that, have they done any wrong to organize a protest as required by the Constitution? And what is their fear about protests bringing war? Where is it coming from?
Well, first of all, I don't know what's the procedure of organizing a protest in Liberia, but what I know is that when you want to protest, you should be able to seek a permit from the government, meaning
and
that
they got that.
They got a permit to demonstrate. Then of course, nothing is wrong with their protest. But of course, people still gonna have counter argument for or against protests or any other political movement, political activities. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying the protesters don't have the right to protest. They have the right. And the reason they call it off today, as we all are learning from now, is that the US government and other international partners came in and told them that it's not the right thing to do it today. They can either cancel it or postpone it. And they agreed to postpone the protest. Now we're hearing two different reactions. One side is saying that they were giving money, meaning that the leaders of the protest movement were giving money to call it off. And there are other people.
We will get to that. Let's look at, do they have good reasons, in your opinion, to stage a protest of this kind that we're talking about that has been rescheduled? Because if you were talking about constructive engagement and you start to go to the level of this legislature, and I understand that the legislature should be able to provide oversight. There are a lot of accountability issues for which I want to agree with you. They should be able to call some officials in the government to provide clarity and answers. But the lawmakers, they are not doing it. So I see the temptation why you try to bring it in. But what I want to bring you to is that you are talking about constructive engagement. The COP in a first protest submitted a petition to the government. I know there's argument that, it was not submitted on this day. When you're supposed to do it, you didn't do it. And I think the president also said that they didn't submit anything. That is not true. What is true is that the COP did not submit the petition on the very day, but later on this petition was submitted and the government received the petition, and the government have had all these months to do something about the petition. The demands in there came from Liberians who have concerns about accountability, concerning money, that have concerns about governance issues, security issues, and all of that. And the government is yet to take a single action on that. Don't you think those are enough reason for them to say, okay, say you cannot, adhere to our demands or even acknowledge them, we are coming back in the street?
Well, you have a point there. If a petition was given to the government some months ago, as far back as June, and people expected the government to do X, Y, Z, and the government is not doing that, they have the right to protest. But the fact of the matter here is that we have to understand that all of what is going on in Liberia today is not a push, let's just start and stop situation. They say you're just going to push a button for it to start or to stop. It's not a situation like that. Society is not operating on a basis of push button or stop button. It takes a lot of time to correct situation. A lot of things are wrong in Liberia. It's going to take all of us, all of the citizens, those of us in Liberia, those of us outside, to work together to correct things. Okay, protest is right, but my question here is that if you protested on June 7th, you gave a petition to the government and said XYZ has to be done. You protest today, of course, you're reminding the government of its responsibility, or maybe you're telling the government, look, we gave you a petition on June 7, and we still haven't heard from you. You have the right to do all of that. But the question here is still, how is all of that going to solve the problem today? You don't expect the problem to just be solved instantly. It's a process. It's going to take time. So we all have to work along with each other to provide the solution that we want, rather than expecting a quick fix solution. There's not going to be any quick fix solution to all of the problems we have in Liberia. Of course, nobody is supporting corruption, which is rampant in the country. Nobody is supporting any unlawful action either that may not help the citizen. That is the point some of us who have been against the protests are saying. But we're not saying people don't have the right to protest, but it's just that some of us think it's not a solution.
Mr. Conan.
Yes.
Let me ask this question. The government has been very, very selective in this whole thing about protest. I don't remember where the government demanded a permit from other pro-government supporters, people who support the government. Anytime they want to protest, they just go ahead and protest. Or even if those people were given permit, there had never been the outcry from government that, oh, this protest is going to bring war. I can remind you of the example I gave you of a group of Liberians who had a protest saying that they don't want protest because protest can bring war, and they had their protest, all right? The Independent Council of Patriots, they had their, I think about 2-3 events they had. Whether they got permit or not, that is not known. Even with their events, the government did not attempt to stop them. And the government did not cry that, oh, we don't have logistics. The government did not say that, oh, this might bring chaos. Nothing of sort. Only when the Council of Patriots, which we can all agree is an opposition-leaning group, whenever they want to have protests, this is when all the noise come about. Why is that so? Do you think that is fair, or don't you see as the government being selective?
Well, I would agree with you on that. If the government think that protest is not good for the current situation, the government should not be permitting any group of people to protest at all. I agree with that. Whether it is pro-government protest, anti-government protest, if the government deems it necessary that protest is not the best option at this time, none of the groups should be permitted to demonstrate or to protest on the street. I do agree on that point. Because it's going to sound hypocritical if you allow one group of people to protest, then you want to tell the other group of people not to protest. That's not the best way. But every citizen has the right to express their opinion, their grievances over any issue in the country. So it shouldn't be a one-sided situation where the government can only allow pro-government activists to get on the street, at the same time telling the on the street. I do agree with you on that.
Yeah, and another concern the government has expressed over the time is the fact that when these kind of protests are staged, they tend to have economic impact on the country. And they also talk about the protests having the propensity to scare investors away. And so when you see Major Koji standing on a car down Waller side, he is an official of government, ranting and making a lot of noise, sounding as though he's in the mood for war and is being loud. The protesters and Koji or the government people, who is actually scaring investors away?
Yeah, but here, what you have to understand, sometimes we have to be able to balance our view and our opinion on this issue. All right, the protest movement say we're bringing out thousands of people on the street to show how unpopular the government is.
Right.
Then, of course, what the government wants to do is to also show that, well, we can put people on the street to show that not everybody is dissatisfied with government performance, though the government have challenges, but the government is trying its best to solve the problem. That's what the government wants to say. So the reason why it is permitting its supporters to get on the street is to counter the perception that the government is so unpopular with the Liberian people. And I believe that if you are a government, you're probably going to do the same thing. Okay? But again, I do agree. If government wants to permit other group of people to get on the street, it should also allow the other people to get on the street, because there are always two sides to the story. So everybody should have the opportunity to tell that story. By the end of the day, what is the economic benefit on the country? What is happening if you were an investor and you want to invest in a country? I don't think you want to invest in a country where every day there is a threat of demonstration. Because whenever there's a demonstration, it has economic impact. I saw some pictures in Monrovia today, even though the demonstration did not take place, but it is still having a great impact on the country because the streets are deserted. All the business places, waterside, all those different places where people are supposed to be coming to earn their daily living, they are scared to come out, even though the demonstration is being called off, but it means that there will be no business in Monrovia today. Market women are not going to be able to sell their bitter balls and other things, and people are not going to be able to go in the market to buy things to go prepare their food in their homes. So even if the protest was not held, it has already created an economic situation that's unbearable for a lot of people in the country.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Again, folks, in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia on our program, The Hour of Politics, with me, Anthony C.A. We are discussing reaction to the December 30th reschedule or cancel protest. Mr. Conan, let's see if we have some caller on the line. Be right there. We will be right back with you.
Okay.
Caller with last number 5151. Are you there? Caller with last 5151. Are you there? Caller with phone number ending 5151. Are you there? Oh, well, that caller seems not to be ready. So, Mr. Connor, I come right back to you. Now, let's come to the role of the international community. Very recently, the international community called on Costa, citing the statement he made in his podcast on the 24th of December, in which he said that if he's attacked, he will have no other option but to repair the attack, and that he will do so in self-defense. And if it means that somebody will go down, that would be the case. The international community called on him to make a clarification, and Costa was able to clarify that. But in the case of the government, that has made a number of threats, some members in the government, Jefferson Koji is one of those who is known for making threats. At some point, he said they will defend the government, their democracy with flesh and blood. He made that statement. The international community that is positioning itself as keeping the peace is yet to call on anybody in the government who have made similar comments to provide any clarification. What do you say to that?
Well, to me, it's unfortunate that everything we do in Liberia is dictated by the international community. It disturbs me to know that we are in the situation like that. Both the government and the opposition cannot engage each other constructively. They all have to wait for instruction from the international community, whether it is US, the EU, or any other country. We as citizens of Liberia should be able to handle our business if we call ourselves an independent nation. So I seriously frown upon the idea that we have to be babysitted by the international community in our endeavors to do anything politically or economically in our own country. And how in the hell are we going to call ourselves independent people, independent nation, when we have to take the dictation from the so-called international community? I'm not looking at whether the international community is fair or not fair between the government and opposition, but my take is that at this time in our life as an independent nation, 172 years old independent nation, we should not be taking dictation from any international community regarding anything in our country. I seriously disagree with that.
Thank you. Again, folks, in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing reaction to the planned December 30th protest that has now been rescheduled or canceled. Mr. Connor, let's go back to our phone lines yet. Again, caller with last number ending in 5151. Are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Your name and where you're joining us from.
My name is Arthur S. Solo from Omaha, Nebraska.
Mr. Solo, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Your contribution, please.
Well, actually, I have three questions. One, the first question is for you, Mr. Host. How do you feel about the protest being rescheduled?
All right, to answer that question, I don't know whether it's a question I should be answering instead of you answering that question. Well, let me answer the question. How do I feel?
Okay.
I feel that since the COP, who happen to be the organizers of the protest, and also since the international community that are there to help maintain the peace have prevailed on the COP, and the COP has agreed for a reschedule of the protest. If that's what the organizer feel is best in their judgment, they wanted the protest, they organized it, they put in their time and resources. If they have agreed to listen to the international community, my answer is, who am I, to tell them that you are wrong? I am a neutral person, so I don't want to give my opinion on that. That's what I would say to that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Host. My second question would be, I like your show. I always want it because you play hardball and you press people. So you and I are going to play hardball.
Yeah, let's do it.
You claim to be neutral, but yesterday on your show when I was watching, you admitted to being part of June 7 protest. And
Right.
Now, following your reporting, the questioning how things going, I think that you were leaning mostly on the side of the protesters. What do you have to say to that?
Well, if you want to take me back, the June 7 protests, I participated in the June 7 protests as a citizen who felt that the government attention needed to be called to the issues of accountability, reports of corruption, the economic hardship in the country, the exchange rate, the process of business community in the country, because at the time it felt like the government was not paying attention and was not doing much to look into those concerns. And so I felt that it was appropriate and it was prudent as guaranteed under the Constitution to petition the government. And so, yes, I was part of the group here in the United States that organized and showed up at the US Embassy, where we were able to meet the ambassador. We went to the White House also, and we were able to register our concerns to the world. I felt that it was necessary to do so. As you remember, that protest, we did not call for the president to step down. That which would be anybody right to say, hey, Mr. President, step down, you're not doing the right thing, but we did not do that. I'm not suggesting that doing that now is wrong either, but we did not do that. And I have no regret for being part of what is constitutional or what was constitutional as a citizen of the country.
Thank you, Mr. Host. My last question, then I'll leave you alone, then the highball is over. My last question has to do with the Article 13 of our Constitution and Article 17. And according to the way that progressed on your reporting this morning, it's like you only have the Article 17 to the people to be disbursed that, oh, we have the right to protest. What about Article 13? Do the people have the right? How can you balance the two of them together, staging the stage with this protest that calling, or we are step down?
The people have the right to protest, and those who are not protesting should also not be inconvenient when those who are protesting decide to go in the street to register their concerns. And so I would say to you, that is why the issue of permit is more like necessary, so that the government can provide alternative routes for individuals who will not be participating in the protest, so that they cannot be inconvenient. And so that is what I would say to that. It is the right of the protester to protest. It is also the right of other Liberians who do not want to participate in the protest or disagree with the protest freely. And so that is how I will balance that.
Thank you, Mr. Sear. I think that we both can play hardball sometimes. Now you realize the reason why the government requires permits.
Do you want me to play hardball with you too?
Well, yeah, I mean,
okay,
you're my
where
best
do you
host that I
stand?
got.
Where
I
do
don't
you
take questions
stand?
from you.
Yeah, where do you stand on the protest?
On the protest, I stand totally against it because it's not in the best interest of the country.
Oh, so it is not constitutional, except that you think it is not in the best interest of the country.
I didn't say it's not constitutional. I say it's not in the best interest of the country.
But you agree that it is constitutional, right?
Constitutional language is very problematic to understand.
The Constitution said that the citizens of Liberia have the right to assemble in a peaceful manner. And the protesters' communication to the Justice Ministry stated that they want to assemble peacefully. Do you agree with that? Do you want to play hardball now?
The protest itself is not illegal. That's what I'm trying to tell you. But the way the people carrying the protest, you and I know how protest goes in Liberia. We have war, 14 years of that.
What war? Tell me about a protest in Liberia that brought war. Just one.
What about the rice riot that brought war in Liberia?
When was the riot? The rice riot happened in 1979. When did the Liberian Civil War start?
That's the beginning of the Liberian Civil War. If you know for real, that's the beginning of the Liberian Civil War.
So what's about the Bring Our Money Back campaign? Did they bring war?
They bring a money back campaign. Actually, it was merely the reason why it stopped, because the international community come in and investigated the process. The Crow
Did
report
they bring back our money campaign bring war?
Bring back our money did not bring war.
Did the June 7
not bringing war?
Did the June 7 protest bring war?
Because of the Crow institution.
Did the June 7 protest bring war?
This June 7 protest is not the way it's supposed to have been. You know that the dead was supposed to do everything.
Did the protest that
is a failure?
The protest that Gandhi led in India, did it bring war? Did the protest Martin Luther King led in America? The protest that Martin Luther King led in Liberia, to correct myself, did that bring war?
The movement in America here killed hundreds and thousands of people. If you're aware of that, it may not bring war, but you lost human life when Martin Luther King was on his campaign.
Did the protest bring war? I'm telling you, did the protest bring war? Because your point was that this 1979 protest brought war.
War and the loss of life.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between war? What did war do? Take away life, and people's life was taken away during the Martin Luther King protest you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Hundreds and thousands of people died. It doesn't have to be declared a war because the United States federal government would not allow it. But they were using the National Guard, not police, to deal with them.
One more question for you. Is there a difference between peaceful assembly and protest?
Distinctly, yes.
What is the difference?
As a war, the war protest itself is stands as disobedience, civil disobedience. peaceful gathering or assembly, it means that you are put yourself together in the manners, or you have a grievance that you already jacked down on the paper, or you want to discuss with your representative and petition the government on it. That's the two different things.
So I thought the Council of Petra wrote the Justice Ministry saying that they want to assemble peacefully. So are they not telling the truth?
No, they are not, because the Council of Petra, Henry Costa, if he threatened to burn down government buildings, government institutions, Yeke Koruba threatened to drag the body of the president in the street. He being an ex-rebel leader, it's not truthful. The government cannot trust you. Even you here in America, if you say you're going to kill Donald Trump, and then the next day you say, no, I'm just going to shake the guy's hand, the Secret Service is not going to let you any closer.
All right, we want to thank you for your contribution. Always join us here on this program, the Hour of Politics, at this network focused on Liberia, so we can play hardball. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you. Thank you. I always watch you and I like your show because you play hardball.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Again, folks, in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia on our program, the Hour of Politics, with me, Anthony C. Our man, Edward Amara, has just joined us from Freetown, Sierra Leone. He is our West African correspondent based right there. We will be joining him in a movement. Let's come back to you, Mr. Conan. You just listen to our caller. What you say to that?
Well, I think the caller and I are on the same point. And it seems that you as a host, you're not a neutral person here. You're playing the role as if to say you are a strong supporter of the protest movement and you're part of the protest movement. Don't you think question your credibility as a host for this program on this particular issue?
Anybody's credibility can be questioned by anybody when they feel the need to do so. But the truth is that if the person has a credibility, the credibility will show at the end of the day. I told you clearly that I was part of the June 7 protest. I am not part of this protest.
That means you are sympathetic to the December 30th movement too.
I am not sympathetic to the December 30th protest. I have no interest in that protest. The only thing I believe is that it is their right to protest as they wish, and because the Constitution gives them that right to do so. I believe that strongly, that it is their right to do so, and I believe that the government should give them the opportunity to do so, just as the government has allowed other people to protest. That's what I believe strongly.
Okay, so do you believe in that case that with all the noise about protest, that it is scaring away investors, that it is affecting the economy? Like this morning, even though the protest did not take place, the streets are empty, the people are now on the street to earn their daily bread. Do you believe all the economic consequences of the protest noise?
What I believe is that the government should be able to play a more leadership role that will not necessitate any protest of this kind. That's the best way, in my opinion, to prevent the economic consequences that protest can bring to any country. I agree. If there is a protest of a magnitude as was reported, also that should have gone for 3 days, 4 days, a week, that means some people will close their stores. Of course, it will be economic consequences. So, but what I think the best solution is that the government should be able to do its work to the best of its ability so that people would not find any reason to protest in the first place. That's the best way to solve it. But if the government is—
I agree with that.
Yeah, if the government is not playing the role, then people will have reason to protest, and then we'll have all of these negative impact on the economy. Let's go to our man, Edward. Mr. Amara, you have been following. The protest has been rescheduled. Some people say cancer. It's supposed to be today. The international community, to be specific, the United Nations, ECOWAS, the U.S. Embassy near Monrovia, and the European Union intervened because they said the government reached out to them and said that they don't have the logistic, to provide security for the magnitude of protest that was reported to have been carried out today. And so no protest in Liberia. What's your reaction upon hearing this news?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon from the side of Sierra Leone. Yeah, I hope over there is morning time. I think normally a bad or a poor worker normally blame bad tools when the work goes on wrong. It is unfortunate that we are watching at the situation of Liberia unfolding itself into this manner. What really happened is a kind of institutional corruption and incompetencies on the side of the political leaders of Liberia and even the civil and public servant that we're having over there. You see, the people have the constitutional right to come out to protest. And the police over there should be the state instrument that should protect them in time of circumstances like this. People are condemning the action of the protest. It depends who you are going to communicate. But from my own personal point of view here, one, this protest may have been cancelled because of certain negotiations that one, and I believe the state is offering certain pieces of excuse, like saying they do not have the state security to provide all the securities that are needed in time of situation like this. But the situation of Liberia is on a time bomb. People are willing actually to go on street to protest, to demand for their right. The only thing, everything that happened in Liberia is merely becoming a state fate because a failed state because of the political leadership that are present over there. And we all know why the people are demanding to go on the street and why they are demanding the exit of this particular government. Offering certain pieces of excuse like that in the name of averting the situation is definitely not going to solve the problem. I think the we-are-led administration is given a kind of temporary time to actually come on board people who matter how to solve this problem. Liberia need a bailout, they need state security, but trust me, irrespective of what is happening today, they are still bent on the activities to go on. So these protests have not been cancelled, it has just been minimized, and by tomorrow we are going to start other news, start getting other news. We are in across the highways of Liberia, and this news can easily be misinterpreted other way. We in Sierra Leone are a bit worried, and everybody that share border with this country, we are really worried because we know Liberia's present democracy is not strong enough to allow such unconstitutional change of government. However, any government that wants to come into power should understand that they have a social contract with these people. And if they fail to deliver responsibility, the general populace are bound to come out. These politicians who are bubuzela and everything they want to say, they are not actually feeling the direct hit of what is going on, because at least at the end of the day, they have food to take to bed, they have food to feed their children. They have other things. There are certain Liberians today who not even leave the country to visit places that state failure. So trust me, the situation is there, it is pressing them. So this process has not been cancelled, it has just been minimized. And if the situation is not quickly addressed, there is high bound that things may definitely go on wrong. Today it has happened, they are stopping paying civil servants, but let's assume they are reached to a state that the government is incompetent or incapable of paying the police and army. Don't you think that they will engineer armed robbers and other people to put that state into chaos? So let them try to put their hand on deck and find tangible solution. Or otherwise, I'm seeing Liberia on a time bomb.
Thank you, Edward. Let's go to the phone lines. I see a caller here. Phone number ending in 2529. 2529. Caller, if you are there, your name and where you're joining us from.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sia. This is George Toto. I'm calling from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Mr. Toto, sorry for keeping you on the line that long. Welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, that's okay. Thank you so much for the show, and also thanks to the senior brother, Mr. Connor.
Yeah.
But let me add on some of the point that Mr. Connor raised on the role of the international community in Liberia. Mm-hmm. If you look at Liberia, from where Liberia came from, and where we are today, whether we have independence 1847 or we are celebrating 100 or 70 years plus of independence, there's no way we can rule the international community on the Liberia politics right now. If you read the release that came from the international community last night or probably before the night of the protest, you can see what was stated in that release. you see how much the international community has spent in Liberia just to maintain the peace in Liberia. And no matter how we sugarcoat this, Liberia is a fragile state. Liberia has become a problem in the South region, especially in the Mano River Basin. We just hear the gentleman from Sierra Leone giving a report from Sierra Leone. And the Liberia scenario has caused or havoc in West Africa. And Liberians have been running. So the international community going to sit the game and allow this thing for other West African countries to be affected because of the Liberia situation again? I don't think so. So I think it was the right direction. It was a rare move for the international community to come in to see how best to either call or COP or the government to see how best they can either postpone or cancel or today's protest. And also too, we should be commending COP also to accepting the decision of the international community. If I all they could have said, you know, would I accept the international community recommendation, we out to protest, well, something we are happy. So I think they did well also to accept the recommendation, and today, even though the economy is shut down today, but we have peace. So we should look at that for that direction. So we cannot rule the international community out of our politics in Liberia. The other country happy that the international community went in to see how better they can run the situation. In Kenya, they have protests that were daily. The international community went there. The other country as well. So I think as with that, that's the point I wanted to raise. But thank you.
All right, Mr. Toro, before you go, let me play hardball with you a little bit. The COP, when they were having their press conference, used a word that drew my attention, the word intrusion. So that suggests to me that they felt that the international community intruded in the domestic affairs of Liberia for calling on them to call off the protest or reschedule it, because I think they used that word because the international community should not be deciding issue of constitutionality. It is their right to protest at a given time of their choice and not a given time of any diplomatic heavyweight. So they feel that the international community intruded. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of disagree with the COP on that also too. That to say the international community intruded on their right. Again, if you listen to the chairman of the COP, Henry Costa, he talk about the security concern that the international community raised to them. They talk about their own safety. So I think it was the best direction for international community to reach out to them. And it was just a recommendation I was giving to them. It was left for them to accept it and look at the security implication of it or not, and which they did accept the recommendation. It was not, look, Mr. Sia, as I said earlier, Liberia, the situation in Liberia right now, we cannot sugarcoat it. We have a serious security threat in Liberia. If the international community sit down, it will cross over in the region and it will be another Liberia problem again.
Thank you, Mr. Toro.
I mean, they have to do everything to come in and be able to call on the COP or the government to diffuse the tension. I think that was a big point of the international community to kind of de-escalate the tension, because the tension was very high. We see the RCOP on the other hand, we see government support on the other hand, also to see the CDC supporter. Everything things have become bad.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Toro. We appreciate your call. Again, folks, in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia on our program, The Hour of Politics, with me, Anthony Shea. We are discussing reaction to the now schedule or cancel protest in Liberia, talking about December 30 protest. That's supposed to be making all the news today. That protest is rescheduled, or if you like, cancel. Let me come back to you, Mr. Conan. The COP, are they cowards? These guys announced this protest more than 2 months ago. They have been reminding their supporters, they have been reminding the international community, everybody. It was reported that international media institutions went to Liberia. And today, that protest is canceled. it is their constitutional right. They were given permit. I'm not sure the government stopped them in any way. The government may not like the idea, may have deployed some tactics to discourage them, but the government did not outrightly stop them. They got their permit, they had a day set, and then these guys, because somebody from an embassy said, oh, don't protest, oh, the America, oh, the European Union. So, boom, okay, we'll listen. Are these guys cowards? Are they not men enough?
Well, like the brother Toto said earlier, how much the international community have invested in Liberia over the years, and to see they don't want to see their investment go in this array and create more problem for the society.
Mm-hmm.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I frown upon the idea that the international community will intrude into our internal affairs, whether for the government or against the government, for the opposition or against the opposition. We are independent people. We should be able to make our own independent decision. But unfortunately, however independent we are, if we are not able to take care of ourselves economically, we have to run to the international community. Then we are giving them reason to interfere in our affairs anytime. Okay. And at this particular moment, if they show reason to cap, to say, look, we are the one that put our money on the line whenever trouble comes to Liberia, and you have to listen to us, well, definitely CAP has to listen to them. But it's still the responsibility is with the government. Whether the protest went on, it didn't go on, the responsibility is with the government to do what it has to do. You know, like I see on Facebook this morning, government supporters are like, you know, taunting the protester as if to say, you know, it's a victory for the government that the protest did not take place today. What I would say, instead of expressing happiness over the fact that the protest did not take place, get to work, get busy. Do what you're supposed to do to bring the relief Liberian people want. We have a very challenging economic situation, which may lead to political instability. So it should be the government responsibility to do those things that will not encourage people to get on the street to demonstrate, that will not also make the international community to interfere unnecessarily in the internal affairs of Liberia.
Thank you. Let's go back to our phone line. Caller with area code 678 and final numbers 2829. Are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm there. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Your name and where you joining us from?
I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia. My name is Amos George.
Mr. George, welcome to Focus on Liberia on our program, The Hour of Politics.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Let me first of all start this thing. 1979 protest, many people come to make reference to 1979, how it was violent. But they don't state the facts. 1979 protest turned violent because the government shot a civilian. That's how come the protest turned violent. So it was the government that instigated the violence. It was not the protester. Let it go and read. It was the government that opened fire on armless protester. It wasn't the civilian that attacked the government. So people should do their homework. Every time people make reference to 1979, it was the government that orchestrated the chaos. So let me make that point clear. People can go and do the research. Civilian never attacked the government. It was the government that opened fire, 1979 Red Riot. So let's get that point clear. Now to the issue of the protest being postponed. Didn't we see this June 7, July 7? June 7, it was asked again by the Senior American and other partners. So there is a pattern here. But the question I want to ask, who is the loser today? Is the government. The protest did not take place, but everything came to a standstill in Liberia. So how can the government be boasting that they have an upper hand? I said it last time. The government put herself in the box. Musa Dean, what did he say the other day? He said there will be no protest until January 20th. That was it was issued by the Minister of Justice. There was no protest in January. Both groups. No. That was the final communication of the Minister of Justice. Then we saw the American Embassy and the other partner saying protest will be scheduled for January 5th and 12th. Another question then, who is cutting the shot in Liberia? Do Liberia have a leadership? There's a serious question. Who is cutting the shot in Liberia? Is it, do we have a real president? The Minister of Information cannot even speak on the issue. Liberia today, I met some and people may not like it, but Liberia is a fair state. And what is a fair state? When government employees cannot take pay, when there's a breakdown of law and order, where what is in Liberia, you have various malicious groups in Liberia. Let's go back.
Few questions for you.
Move a certain group.
Few questions for you. Given what you just said, and if I may add to what you just said, the president also said that he will be able to respond to the concerns of the COP in his national address in January. And then you just said here, Musa Dean also said that there should be no protest until January. And then the international community now has suggested a date in January. Does it mean that the government is in cahoots with the international community to decide what happens in Liberia?
No, the government is not in cahoots. The government is not in control. And let me give you a reason.
Okay.
What the president said last time, that he will not talk to racketeers. He's not going to talk to anybody. He said in the press conference, I think you followed. So if he said that, why are you going back to the international community to say, oh, we can't provide security on the particular date? So what happens? If you can provide security within 1 week time, you have the manpower, you input the manpower not to provide security. It is the pressure from the international community. Because if you look at the communication, the first communication from the embassy, when they asked Mr. Costa to clarify, then at the bottom they say, it is the people's constitutional right that you cannot deprive them. It's a fundamental right to protest. That was the end of that communication when they asked that Costa to come and clarify his statement, what he meant. And Henry Costa went back to clarify that what he meant, it was anchored that he misspoke. He did that clarification. And at the bottom of that communication, they say what? It is a Liberian people's right, fundamental right that you cannot stop them. So you see, the government is under pressure. Okay? The government is under pressure. And if I come back to the point, I was talking about fair state. What is a fair state? If the government cannot pay salary, you have these are malicious groups now patrolling Monrovia. I mean, that's a reality.
Another question.
You saw,
Has the COP or its chairman, Costa, done anything, said anything that may have led to the international community to have made the effort that got this protest cut off?
Oh, here's the problem, and this is why I have said, on other platforms, I have said that Mr. Costa has to control his emotion, the way he speaks. The international community will not want to be anything, will not want to be part of anything that will be associated with violence or wars, inflammatory. They will not want to be part of it. It was based on that the data release that he discovered what he meant. Because fundamentally they are supporting the rights of Liberians, but at the same time, they don't want to support anybody or people that will make inflammatory statements. So it was based upon that they asked him to make the inaction to make the clarification, and he did.
Another question.
Things are moving. That's why they're.
Sorry, another question. Is Yeke Koluba like a credibility burden to the COP, giving his utterances most of the time?
No.
Okay.
No. Listen. Yeke Koluba, I take off issue also with Yekeko of his presentation of issue. But you can see what will always lead to Yeke speaking like this, like the way he speaks. But then I turn it around. What about the city mayor? If you see Yekeko is so his statement are inflammatory to the COP, then what about the city mayor himself? What about the deputy minister of information? What about the president himself? Their statement are inflammatory to the situation to the governing person of Liberia too. Let me ask you too. If the city mayor can say flesh and blood will waste.
Another question, I think we have
that
a lot of
statement is not inflammatory.
Yeah, another question, then we'll let you go. We have a lot of
but Mr. Chair, you're playing high ball with me. So I'm asking you now. Those statements from the government are not inflammatory to the government process of Liberia.
I mentioned two earlier about Eugene Fagon rhetoric, and also the talk that always come from Jefferson Koji. I mentioned that, and I said that the international.
But the president himself
call on the government.
The president himself.
Yeah, listen now. The international community have never called on Jefferson Koji, or did not call on him to clarify his rhetoric when he said that they would defend the democracy of the country or their government, to be specific, with flesh and blood. The international community, these very people that call on Costa, did not call on him to clarify. They did not. All right.
But are you aware? Yeah, I agree. But hold on. Are you aware that Representative Chris Smith recently issued a release on Jefferson Koji? And are you aware that the U.S. embassy, the U.S. embassy called on the government the last time that Eugene Fagon was suspended for rhetoric?
Yeah. Yep, Eugene Fagon was suspended, but then he was brought back in the government. But my last question to you, so I can let you go, is you mentioned about Costa emotions, how he need to keep his emotion in check, and I believe you don't agree with all of his rhetorics as well. Is this man continue to go on expressing these kind of emotions and rhetorics? Is that somebody that you want to keep trusting, or people who trust in him should keep trusting?
Oh, everybody grows through a leadership or ranks.
Okay.
Is it because the only person in like that will make such a statement? No. But do you have a genuine cause? Oh, yes. He has a genuine cause. But sometimes something doesn't prevail, and sometimes people make some statement, which is in line. This young man was attacked on his radio station. So you have to take into account that his life too. So some of these statements were made out of anger. But I support Costa on most of the things you talk about. I support him because there's a genuine, legitimate cause. You talk about $16 billion. You talk about $25 million. You talk about corruption. All these things. You talk about rape. You talk about murder people in Liberia. Those are not legitimate cause. I thought those are legitimate cause.
Thank you so much.
Because if he says something at the point, how can I come to condemn that everything he's speaking now is not in place? No.
Thank you.
Then I'll be given to him. Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for your participation. John, us always here at Focus on Liberia.
Okay, sir. You're welcome.
All right. Let me come back to the gentleman in studio. Mr. Amara, let me bring this to your attention. In Liberia, we have a gentleman who you may not know or may have heard about. His name is Rufus Nova. He was a member of the COP, the group that organized the June 7th protest and organized this protest that we are talking about right now. All right, sorry about that. The gentleman was a member of the COP, and he broke away certain reason of money changing hands. So he established his own COP, naming it the Independent Council of Patriots. Just today, because the protest did not go well, he went on having a press conference to say that money changed hands again, that the government of Liberia bribed officials or some official of the COP with $200,000 United States dollars to cut off this protest and they are only using the international community as scapegoat. Oh, Edward left, and so that question will be for you, Mr. Conan. What Nuve said, are there reason to believe that he's saying the truth, Mr. Conan?
Well, I don't want to believe what Nubel is saying. But again, in Liberia, people say anything they want to say. Sometimes they don't have any fact to back up what they're saying. All right. Mr. Nubel, I know he too has the right to his opinion, but I believe that credibility matters here. If he says, you know, the international community or the government gave $200,000 to Henry Costa and his collaborators, he should be able to present an evidence that cannot be denied. But if you cannot show any evidence to back up what you're saying, then of course, nobody's going to take you seriously. You know, I know he's a pro-government person. He doesn't want a demonstration to happen. He's on the government side, but I hope he's not saying this as propaganda. The government should do what it was elected to do. The government, the CDC campaign against other political parties and presented itself as an option to Liberian people elect the city. Okay. And other seditions to issue threats here and there, they shouldn't be doing. They should act responsibly to take care of the issue in the country at this moment. And the whole thing can get because to go month to month by getting paid off. They should be really, really worried about how to take care of those issues rather than allowing situation that will create condition for protest. Protest is not a solution, we all know this, but of course, if you don't.
Mr. Conan, your line is bad right there. Your line is bad, so let's hold it right there. Your line is bad, or do some adjustment at your end. We couldn't get you clearly. Edward.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you are aware of a group calling itself the Independent Council of Patriots. This group broke away from the Council of Patriots, the group that organized the protest. He alarmed this morning that morning change that the government bribed the protest organizers with 200,000 United States dollars. My brother, Mr. Conan, here was saying that he doesn't have proof. He comes across as a pro-government guy. He organized a counter-protest, something that anybody would think is not a good thing, because then if you are against the protest for fear that will bring war and you're organizing a counter-protest where there'll be a clash, then no one understands whether you are a person of peace. But this is why he said that money changing. What's your view on
that? Thank you very much. You see, in situations like this, everything becomes very sensitive. However, we are expecting, based on the languages that we have been hearing from both the government, especially the protest commandos or the leaders, we are bent on it that our cause today, December the 30th, they are definitely going to protest against the government and to ensure that they have this government either responded to them positively, or most of those guys who they think they are not performing well evicted from their position. Unfortunately, we had some counter reaction from the international community and the protesters giving in. There are times you may not rule certain happenings because the political system and this guy, some of these guys who are spoiling these affairs in Liberia are political genius. Nobody's saying most part of those allegations that have been alleged by most of these guys is actually lie. But to you, something is actually wrong, because when people develop cold food to do an action that they have been bent on for quite a long time, it tells you that something is wrong somewhere. Having said that, the we-are-led administration probably may have been into secret negotiation with most of these guys who are top-ranking officers. The like of Henry Costa cannot be approached directly. Reason being, Henry Costa have been part and parcel of we-are campaign that brought him to power. And to me, I don't know whether Henry Costa is actually fighting a personal cause, or is he fighting a national cause? Because when you watch at everything, he had wanted also to be part and parcel of this particular administration. But being that he's not fully involved, he also has become very militant, uncompromising, and he's now a non-conformist when it comes to the Liberia issue. But as long as they have refused to go on as it has been decided, the international community has the right to stop them not to protest. But they do not have the right to intervene into Liberia personal issues till they are being called upon. But in this trip, they were not called upon. They just came in and these guys developed cold food. And I believe we administration have been into secret negotiation with this thing. So let us not rule this out. As the time goes on, many of those things may unfold. And I believe that as soon as this protest has failed today, there is a high possibility that the top leaders of the protest have to disorganize, to reorganize, and in trying to reorganize themselves, a lot of things will unfold, but that cannot be denied, because the we-are-led administration that is under fire is not just totally stupid. They might have been in negotiation with some of these trouble-headed guys who want to ignite trouble in Liberia because they have failed, and they have the right to protest because Liberia is a failed state. We have seen this in Sudan, we have seen this in Northern Africa, we have seen this everywhere, even in the Western world, places like Asia. People are on the street when their government have failed. But normally they look at the ringleaders and go into direct negotiation with them. Henry Costa may not be touched. That Koluba may not also be touched because he's an opposition leader in parliament. But most of those things are definitely meant to unfold themselves as time goes on. But there's a possibility that some have been actually being favored by the government and they don't want the protest to go on.
Thank you. Right there, the man, Edward Amara in Freetown, Sierra Leone. Let me come back to you, Mr. Conan. Here's my question. The COP, in advertising this protest, calling on their their supporters, their protesters have been making phone calls on the Costa show, on other talk show, saying that December 30th is a must. The Liberian people that support this protest, who have serious disagreement with this government, that have serious problem with this government, they made it clear that their protest will not be changed. The date will not be changed. So for the COP, because international community people call on them for them to cut off the protest, my question is, who should they be listening to? The Liberian people that they call upon, that promised them, that stood with them June 7. Should they listen to them or the international community? Who are they listening to? And who should they listen to? Sorry, you are on mute there. Let me unmute you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
All right, you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. What I'm trying to say is just to reiterate what I said before. It's like the international community interference in our affair is not the right thing, but it is not just the protest organizers that are taking a cue from the international community, the government as well. Whatever the government is doing, the government is, why should the government go to international community to pressure the protest organizer to stop it up? That shouldn't be happening. And the protest organizer at the same time should not be listening to an international community rather than their supporters. Those that are supporting them, they are the one they are accountable to, not the international community. But we also have to understand that international community, based on the fact that we are dependent on them financially and every other way, they too have a right to have a say in what we do. Because at the end of the day, when trouble befalls Liberia, it is going to be them that will foot the bill. You understand? So that's how I understand that. But the protest organizers should be, they owe their supporters a lot of explanation. Okay, coming back to Rufa Nouvelle saying money was given, I don't want to believe that money was given until he can show all irrefutable evidence that money was given by to the protest organizer. That's what I got to say about that.
Thank you. Again, gentlemen in studio, we should be wrapping up here. And folks in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia on our program, The Hour of Politics with me, Anthony Sear. We have been discussing reactions to now the June 30th protest that has been rescheduled or canceled. It is now a rescheduled or canceled protest. To those listening to us in cyberspace, let's do you some justice. Let's read your comments. Ato Solo writes, COP up to now do not have a permit, Mr. Host, for December 30th. Please prove it. All right. He's bringing something to our attention. I'm going back to sleep. Someone saying that. I am very proud of the COP leadership that they are able to listen and make a wise decision for the safety of the people. Somebody agreeing with the COP decision to agree to cut off the protest. Edwin Johnson writes, people are supporting corruption in Liberia. Alice Jones writes, but it doesn't seem like the government needs or wants any help. Free accountability individuals believe they are doing a good job. To where we are in Mangay, being a little bit sarcastic right there. Nellie Jones writes, Mr. Host is not neutral. That person is pointing the accusing finger at me that I am not neutral. I will try to be as neutral as possible. I'm not sure if I'm going to convince you. Costa was the one who started. He will arm, or who stated he will arm his bodyguards and have them shoot if they deem it necessary. That is warmongering right there. That's why he had to retract his statement. Mr. Dave Ja writes, what became of the nation after the nationwide protest, which led to massive death from 1989 to 2004? We need to think and look deeper to solve the plethora of problems we faced. Robin Draper, right? Mr. Ho, talk about Mr. Costa militancy behavior too. I think I brought that up and my callers were also able to talk about it. And Helen Quayon Elliott, Mr. Ho, please be neutral. I'm trying. I don't know if I'm going to convince you, but I'm trying. I'm always neutral here. Mr. Kamara Mohammed, right? A true leader relies on his leadership and influence to lead and not a state agent and vigilant groups to intimidate peaceful protesters and restrict free speech. President Weah infiltrated the COP. Some comment there from our viewers on Facebook. And so folks in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia on our program, The Hour of Politics with me, Anthony Sear. We have been discussing reaction to the December 30 protest that has now been rescheduled, or if you like, or canceled. Gentlemen, we will draw down the curtains here. And so I will close us by saying this. First of all, it must be made clear that any group of Liberians have the right to assemble peacefully as required or provided for in our Constitution. The Council of Patriots had the right to protest, and I believe for them to have cut off the protest after they have mobilized thousands of Liberians who support them to cut off the protest at the 11th hour, I'm not sure whether those Liberians who have put so much trust in them will continue to maintain that trust. Maybe not all of them, but I believe some of them will be so much dissatisfied and may start raising some accusing fingers at the organizers of the protest. And I think they needed to call on the Liberian people to ask them for their opinion whether or not the protest should go on, because they got their approval for the protest to be held today. They talked to them, they supported them financially, and they also allowed them to get ready for the protest. And so for them to not have heard from them or inform them of their decision, to cancel the protest, I don't think that was the right thing to do. What they have done, in my opinion, will bring their credibility to a serious question, and people may not be willing to form part of any protest. As a matter of fact, this is not the first time the COP has announced a date for a protest, and that protest did not go as planned. We are reminded of the July 24th protest. It was not held, and then it will move to July the 31st. I believe it was not held. And now we have the December 30th protest again that is not being held. The COP has announced this protest way ahead of time, and so they should have listened to the Liberian people and exercised their constitutional right. As a matter of fact, the very international community, in negotiation with the government and the COP, made it clear that it is their right under the Constitution to assemble peacefully. I think the COP should have listened to the Liberian people and exercised their democratic right, because the failure of them to not have carried on the protest will be able to discourage, or will discourage, most of their supporters. And to the international community, now the ball is in their court. It is because of their intervention that this protest is now caught up. They made a suggestion that the protest should be rescheduled to July the 5th, but the COP is saying July the 6th. They should do everything in their power to make sure that the security that the government claims it cannot provide at this time, that security is provided, so that if the organizer of the protest want to continue with the protest, so that the protest can continue, for the Liberian people who have grievances will be given the opportunity to express their grievances. To the government that claim that they don't have the capacity right now to provide the necessary security for the protest, from now on to the 20th to the 6th of January, they should be able to provide that necessary security so that protesters will be able to carry on their protest as they suggested that they are still planning to carry on their protest. We will also want to say to the organizers of the protest that they should be able to conduct themselves in a manner that will not discourage anybody, neither the international community, the government, or any group of Liberian, or any Liberian, not to support their constitutional rights to protest as outlaid in our constitution. Mr. Connor, I come back to you, your closing statement.
Well, my closing statement here is that though the protest is being called off, I would call on the government to get back to basic, get back to business. If the government does what it's supposed to do, there will be no reason for other people to protest. Protest is being led by opposition leaders from various political parties, which sometimes is questionable. If the protest is led by maybe civil servant or citizen organizations that is not part of any political movement, sometimes it would be more credible. But people will see situation as if to see the opposition parties that did not win election, they are trying to take advantage of the situation to create more chaos in the society. But at the end of the day, responsibility is of the government to do what it's supposed to do so that people will have no reason to get on the street. If people get paid on time, if it is carrying on development and progress in the country, there will be no reason for protest. So the responsibility is of the government, and we are calling upon the government to do what it promises to do during the campaign. That's what I have to say. President, we have to show true leadership in leading the country. You cannot let Jefferson Koji and all these other people to go on the street issuing unnecessary statement that had the propensity to bring about chaos in the country. They should be focusing on governing, providing necessary resolve to all of the problems the country is faced with. That's what they should be doing, instead of issuing provocative statements all the time. That's what I have to say. And to the protest organizer, more especially my dear friend, my dear brother, Henry Costa, even though he and I have a disagreement over some of these things, he has to be careful in what he says. A lot of time, you know, his emotion can run so high, so deep. He says something that are not called for, that are not necessary. As a leader that thousands of people listen to at this time, he should be careful what he says. The utterances matter a lot. That's what I have to say. And I wish that all of us Liberians, not only those in government, those in opposition, all of us need to work hard to bring peace and stability to Liberia. Thank you and God bless. And I'm very happy for the opportunity to appear on your show today. And I hope to come back next time. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. Anytime. And Mr. Amara, your closing statement.
Has been okay. Thank you very much. I think I was muted. From the beginning of the protest up to this stage, I am convinced beyond reasonable doubt that the organizers, especially like Henry Costa, languages have been uncordial, militant, and insightful, because he is fighting a cause. He's not there to overthrow a government. Rather, he should be there to ensure that some correctiveness have been made into the maladministration of George Weah. Having said that, he should be a very mature person. He should have in mind that he's dealing with a number of youth who are highly illiterate, uninformed, and can easily be misled to destroy the country that he wants to make tomorrow. So he should direct his words. He should know when to use certain words, how to use them, where to use them, and for which reason he's using them. The manner in which he's trying to address the situation may be directly into other wrong things. Some people are there who easily have that intention to create trouble for Liberia, but they are only watching at the opportunity. And he shouldn't provide the opportunity. If he's there as a solutionist, then he should provide the solution into a right way that people should understand it. I'm not against his protest. I'm not against what he's planning, but the manner in which he plans to direct this protest is what I'm against. Liberia does not have a type of mature democracy that people can easily understand to actually to take a government unconstitutionally. Weah has been elected for a very fixed time of office. If Weah is to leave, then I think let him make some pieces of advice and try, like he has certain political appointees that are not actually doing well. If they know that the Minister of Finance is not performing well, then certain suggestions should be made. And we are also expecting the state instrument like the police, the army, and any other person who has weapons should be very careful in how they are going to handle it, because normally in situations like this, we see African leaders who will definitely involve to incite the state instrument against the populace. And we should understand that Liberia just came from civil war. Most of these civilians that we are dealing with, they are definitely not innocent on how to use the weapons that these police and soldiers are handling. And if these weapons are directed into the wrong way, they are definitely bound to create trouble. And even to some of this media that is in Liberia, I talk about some of this Facebook, WhatsApp, and exactly what we are doing. They should also be very careful in monitoring what they are actually doing, because most of the time, certain messages taken from Facebook, WhatsApp, and radio stations can easily be misinterpreted, and taken for fact. So all of these things should be observed, and I think it is high time the international community involved in practical time, instead of just sitting down, condemning the action and trying to offer a solution, provide certain solutions that are not even workable in Liberia. These guys are desperate. They are on the verge of fomenting trouble. And the best way they can avert this trouble is to come in with certain tangible issues. That is why we should be there offering pieces of advice, finding tangible solutions to the problem rather than fomenting trouble. And to me, if you ask me, my personal opinion, finally, Henry Costa is not a matured civil servant, or is not a matured civil. He's not a mature type of person or civil activist person that can actually lead protests in Liberia, because all of his wording have not been auguring down well for the government of Liberia. So they should be very careful on how to handle this particular issue. or else I am afraid Liberia is trying to go down to the back to the darker days. And if anything like that happens, Sierra Leone is going to suffer, Guinea is going to suffer, and the young economy that they are trying to build will definitely go down the road. We just pray and hope that from now, anytime we should understand and get positive feedback from those who are definitely involved. And I think we also need some religious people to definitely involve, because Africans believe in religion. Those certain issues, religion do not solve it, but I think the religious leaders should also be involved. Everybody should just be involved, the media, journalists, and whosoever, and that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edward Amar right there. And so, folks, in cyberspace, we are coming to the conclusion of our show this morning, Minnesota time. Folks, we have just received a communication. It's a release from the government of the Republic of Liberia. The release is responding to the wild accusation or allegation that has been leveled against the Liberian government to have given $200,000 United States dollars to some official of the Council of Patriots. The Liberian government has issued a release in which it said it will be able to launch an investigation because the allegation made by Rufo Number is completely troubling, and that they will do all they can to get to the bottom of this. We encourage the government to get to the bottom of this accusation. We hope that this will not be treated like any other investigation that we have seen in the past. We are reminded of an investigation into the $25 million. That investigation, when the report came from the Auditing Commission of the Republic of Liberia, we read the report and we get to know that there was serious wrongdoing. There were institutions that were listed to have been dealt with and given money. Those institutions were contacted by investigators. Investigators reported that those individuals said the government did not deal with them at all. So that shows clearly that there was serious wrongdoing that happened with the map of money. And so the government went and sent the report to the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, the LACC, in which it said that they were going to initiate a criminal prosecution because there was serious wrongdoing. That report has not returned from the LACC. Now it is the government again that is telling us about another investigation into a serious allegation of $200,000 United States dollars being given by the government of Liberia to official of the COP. This allegation is serious. We hope that the government will get to the bottom of this particular allegation. We believe that it is the right of every Liberian to protest, and at all times they should be given the opportunity to exercise their democratic right, especially a group that has a history of conducting a peaceful protest. There is no history of the Council of Patriots organizing a protest in Liberia that turned violent and led to war or to the death of fellow Liberians. That has not happened. So we believe that they should have been given the right to do so, but the government is citing that they do not have the capacity now to provide security. The international community agrees with the government that the government does not have the capacity. The protest has been rescheduled. We hope and pray that these two individuals or these two institutions, the government and the international community, now have the ball in their court. What they have said, they should be able to follow through so that this group of Liberian constitutional right would not be infringed on, as it seems to be the case. And to the Council of Patriots, to its leadership, their words carry a lot of weight because they have thousands of Liberians that are following them. And so we will urge that their utterances must be civil, must be productive, and should not undermine their very cost. To the people of Liberia, it is all of us responsibility to keep the peace, and the peace we must keep. And that will bring us to the conclusion of this topic, to this morning that we have been discussing here. I focus on Liberia on our program, The Hour of Politics, with me, Anthony Sie. I want to say thank you. I have been your humble host. Join us next time on any of our program. Tomorrow we hope to have with us Honorable J. Nambe Slaw. We will be having a special interview with Honorable J. Nambeslaw. J. Nambeslaw is a representative from Sano County, and we will be having a special interview with him here at Focus on Liberia somewhere around 11 in the morning, 11 p.m. Eastern, or maybe 10 p.m. Eastern. We will post a flyer to inform our followers, our viewers, and our listeners. So yeah, Nambeslaw will be here tomorrow to play hardball on the Hour of Politics with me, Anthony C. Join us tomorrow, and it promises to be great. The legislature has approved the printing of 4 billion Liberian dollar. Jed Nambeslaw will be quizzed on that. He will provide his answer. He's a man who does not make his words. You do not want to miss it. And so, folks, that is how we'll draw down the curtain, as always, on Focus on Liberia on our program, The Hour of Politics. I'm your guy, Anthony C. And we leave you with this very beautiful traditional music. Hallelujah.